With our beloved Reverend Sky St. John gone on sabbatical, we have been blessed with exceptional guest speakers. In August keeps up with that tradition. We have Reverend Ginny Roll with us, her beautiful, beautiful, big, and powerful presence in the month of August. Ginny ran into Unity in 1997, and she has been running into it ever since. She went to Unity Institute and was ordained a Unity minister in 2007 and is wonderfully big and powerfully running, leading the Unity Fellowship Church in Williamsburg, Virginia. She spent almost a year with us, so I consider her to be one of our own. Would you please welcome with me Reverend Ginny Roll, one of our own.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. You know, I told the last two services, and I just have to say to you, you know, when Sky called and asked me to be a part of this for the month of August, you know, I felt like I was very blessed to be here to serve you all. And I am being so enormously blessed by all of you and all that you bring to me as I look out at all these magnificent faces of God. See the, you know, just that presence in each and every one of you just fills my heart. So thank you for being here today and being a part of our service this morning. So today I want to introduce you to a little friend of mine. It's a crayfish. And the crayfish, you would say, well, what does it have to do with me, for crying out loud? But the thing about the crayfish is this. In order, the crayfish has an exterior that's called an exoskeleton, which means that the skeleton of this animal is on the outside of it, this little sea creature. Therefore, when the animal grows, when this crayfish grows, he has to leave his skeleton in order to create another one. The process takes anywhere from 3 to 4 days, and during that time, it's quite scary for the crayfish because he's very receptive to prey or injury. But he can't help himself to change. If he didn't change, he would die. If he didn't change, he would die. Unlike us, all sitting in this room, our desire to change does not mean quite that same thing. We get to choose whether or not we wish to change. Or this. If you think the way you've always thought, you'll feel what you've always felt. If you feel what you've always felt, then you will do what you've always done. And if you do what you've always done, you'll get what you've always gotten. And I ask you, do you want to stay the same? Do you want your life to be exactly as it is today, as it is going to be a year from now? Only what? Okay, only in health. Okay, that's good. But it's one of those questions we need to ask ourselves because for so many of us, change is quite scary. And so Robert Brummett, who's a minister out at Unity Village, he wrote a book called Finding Yourself in Transition. And in that book, he says, our desire to grow means that we have to change. We can't stay the same. And I'm going to guarantee that anybody that's sitting in this room today is saying to themselves, that's why I come to this church. I've talked to many of you, and you've told me your stories about how this church has helped you change, help you grow, help you see the world with different eyes, help you maybe move out and do things that you never thought you would ever do. But because you're in an environment that helps you change, it's so much easier. Also, change is a natural process, isn't it? I mean, every day we are changing. Every 60 seconds, our body loses up to 300 million cells. And as I said before, I wouldn't want to be the scientist that had to count those. Yes, that's the number of the population in the United States. Every 60 seconds. At the same time we're doing that, we are also creating 10 to 50 trillion cells each day in our body to replace those that are dying. So even though we sit here and we kind of think, well, nothing's going on with me, maybe I feel my heart beating or maybe I have a little ache or pain somewhere, but truly in our being, there's all kinds of changes going on. Now think about other changes in your life. You've seen your children grow or your grandchildren grow. Maybe many of you have decided to move here to Hawaii, and thus you had to go back home and make all kinds of preparations in order to do this. And you were able to step into that change because you thought, wow, this is something that I'm really feeling drawn to do. I really, really want to do this. So a couple of other things about the idea of change. Paul says in the Bible, I die daily. And every day we do die. We die to different things that no longer serve us in our life. And change can be sudden or gradual. So for many of us, sudden means, all of a sudden the day's going by and then we get a call that somebody that we love has maybe moved on. Maybe we find out that our job is being ended, and that's going to cause a real hardship for us. Or if it's gradual, maybe it's something like that trip to Hawaii where you came here on a vacation and you said, in 5 years from now, I'm moving back there. That's the home that I want to live in for the rest of my life. Or it could be planning for retirement. And you kind of set everything in place so that when you retire, you're able to do some things that you would really, really enjoy doing, things that would really make you feel wonderful inside or open some new journey for you. There are a couple of ideas about this change. Robert Brummett says that transitions are composed of 3 stages. Now, if you know these things, sometimes when you're going through a change or a transition, it doesn't have to seem as scary, even though many of us only change when it's a crisis in our life. In Chinese, the word crisis, when they put the word together, it actually means danger and opportunity. So we can either use something going on in our life making us fearful, or we can use it as an opportunity to grow and expand ourselves. But you're going to have 3 stages. There's going to be an ending, then there's going to be a void, and then there's going to be a new beginning. The best story I know in the Bible that talks about this is the one with Moses. Moses is minding his own business, watching his sheep, when all of a sudden he sees a bush burning over at the side of the road, and goes over to check it out and realizes, well, there's a fire going on, but the bush isn't being consumed by the fire. So Moses goes over to check the bush out, and in the meantime, God speaks to Moses and says, Moses, I want you to go to Egypt and get the Israelites freed from their bondage. Now, at first Moses goes, what? What am I going to tell the Pharaoh that would make him release the Israelites? God says, don't worry about it. I'm going to be with you all the way. And Moses says, well, that's fine, but who are you? And God says that beautiful name that you all repeat in your affirmations, I am that I am. So Moses goes off to Egypt to talk to the Pharaoh and says, you need to let the Israelites go. Pharaoh says, no. I'm not going to let them go. They're my workforce. They're my slaves. They get all the things done that we need to do in Egypt. So I'm not going to let them go. Well, then 10 things show up to make his life kind of miserable, this Pharaoh. Finally, the last one was the killing of one of his children, the males. And so he decides, okay, let me get these people out of here before anything else happens. So Moses takes the people and heads on out into the desert. Except on his way out there, the Pharaoh changes his mind and says, you know what? I don't think I made the right decision. So he sends his army after them. And if you've all watched the 10 Commandments, the movie, you see Moses up on the mountain with the staff and the water of the Red Sea parts, the Israelites go through, and then the armies are drowned in the water. So this idea of the Pharaoh, what would that mean? What would that be in our life? Since, as Margie was saying, we look at the Bible metaphysically so we can really relate to the people in the Bible. The Pharaoh is that part of us that doesn't like us to change a bit. That says, no, it's really safe here. Why do we want to change anything? We're doing fine. And that Pharaoh will tell us, don't do it. Don't step out. Don't go after your dreams. Don't try to study unity ideas and change the way you've been thinking all your life. Why would you want to do that? We are fine. However, the first stage of this ending is that something does come to an end. There is a time of release of the old, and typically a time of sadness, grief, pain, conflict, and an opportunity to consciously experience our discomfort. So when we end something, something is going to come to an end, and it could lead to some pain for us. We don't like to let things go. If they've served us in one time of our life, maybe we think they're still going to serve us now. But the one thing I really want to point out is the idea you have to consciously experience your discomfort. Sometimes when things happen to us and we don't feel comfortable, the first thing we want to do is get out of that discomfort. And yet for our own spiritual growth, it's actually better if we just experience it and allow it to be. Like, I'm really sad about this. I'm really sad that my friend is going to be moving to another part of the country and I'm not going to be able to spend time with them anymore. We had a great relationship. We had a great friendship. We did so much together. Now that's all coming to an end. And I feel sad about that. And allow yourself to feel that. Because as you know, psychologically, if we don't feel the things that we're going through, guess what's happened? We stuff them, and then we got to deal with them at a later date. So it's better to just deal with it at the time. So here we've got Moses now. He's got the people out in the middle of the desert. Now, of course, they are not happy. They are moaning and groaning and whining. Why didn't we stay in Egypt? We had food in Egypt. We knew what we were supposed to do in Egypt. Now we don't know what we're supposed to do. We're wandering around. Where are we going to go? You can imagine, right? Get a group of people together and see what kind of things they have to say. But when you look at the story in the Bible fully, you realize that God provided them with everything that they needed. God provided meat to eat at night, quail, manna every morning, water, clouds during the day so that it wasn't so hot as they walked through the desert, and the light was provided for them at night so that they could see by a pillar of fire. All of their needs were met as they journeyed through the desert. And this for us is called the void. The void is a time of waiting. The Israelites didn't know what they were going to do, and sometimes we don't know what we're going to do. We feel disoriented and vulnerable, not sure of what to do next. We vacillate between the old life and the new. It offers a huge opportunity for inner growth and faith. Now, how many times have you headed out to do something, and then the Pharaoh within you said, no, don't do that? Why are you going to go out and make a change in your life? Come on back here. Come on back. You know this. This is better. And sometimes it affects us so much that we don't move ahead. We don't allow ourselves to be that full expression that we want to be. We don't move into that next phase of our life or begin to change the way we think and how we show up in the world because it's so comfortable to stay exactly where we are. So anyway, the Israelites finally begin to have faith in God and in the process, and that's what we're invited to do also. So now, we're out in the wilderness. We're out in the void. We begin to question ourselves. We begin to not know what to do. That really is the time, as it says, for us to have that spiritual growth moment where we can continue to pray, when we continue to stay centered, when, like last week we talked about, we will be guided and directed to the next thing that we want to do. If we will just not panic, just not get fearful, and wait and listen. And then what comes next? The new beginning. Something begins to emerge. We begin to make new commitments. Time to formulate our desires, surrender to results, and move in a new direction. Finally, after 40 years roaming around in the desert, the Israelites finally get to the mountain overlooking the promised land. Many of them never made it there because they died along the way. They just couldn't be in that place of the void and waiting and being guided by the inner spirit. And it's the same with us. But then all of a sudden, it feels like almost little flowers or little plants are starting to grow and these little seedlings are coming up. We begin to see more clearly, what is it that I'm supposed to do next? Am I supposed to take a class here at Unity Church of Hawaii? Am I supposed to get involved with outreach? What am I supposed to do? How does Spirit want to use me in the world? That's a question we can almost ask ourselves every single solitary day. And finally, Barbara Marx Hubbard is a woman that talks a lot about the future and the consciousness of the world. And she says that crisis precedes transformation. From the perspective of the present, the crisis looks like a big mistake, a deadly error in the system. But from the perspective after the quantum transformation within us, the problems are seen to be evolutionary drivers, vital stimulants which trigger conscious evolution. And you say, well, what is conscious evolution? Conscious evolution is the understanding that we are a part of a magnificent process, that we are created with a purpose, just as you all say here. And when we cooperate with that purpose, that we can plan and design our own future. You know, we are such powerful beings that we can actually do this. We can get so much in step with the infinite moving through us, guiding us and directing us, urging us to take the next step, moving on into some unknown journey for ourselves. I mean, I know myself, one of the scariest times of my life was after I decided to leave my real estate career of 20 years, and I decided to move to Virginia Beach from Richmond permanently and see what my next step was going to be in life. I didn't have a clue. And I used to get up at night and I would be in such a panic that I would be sweating. And I was so afraid, like, what am I supposed to do now? I've left a career, and now what? And I would pull out any spiritual book I had, and I would start reading. And as soon as I was reminded, you know, Ginny, you don't worry. You are one with God. God is going to take you wherever God moves through you to be done as you. And as soon as I'd start reading that, I'd calm down. I'd begin to feel more peaceful. I begin to realize that I wasn't by myself in this world, and none of you are either. Whatever we're being guided to do, encouraged to do, nagged to do, because some of us, we hear the same thing over and over and over and over again, and we still don't step out. But whatever that is, know that we are in a part of this evolutionary consciousness where we are actively creating what it is that God wishes to express itself through us as. And then, of course, as you all say here, when you think and when you pray and when you act, as you are this infinite energy of life, it ripples out into the world and changes the world. If we want peace in the world, we be peace. If we want joy in the world, we be joy. If we want harmony in the world, we show up as harmony. And then that's the way it moves through the world. The whole world gets touched by each one of us. Let's just take a moment, take a deep breath, allow ourselves to just sit and rest in this moment. Allow your heart to open to one idea or something that you've heard in this service so far that's going to serve you this week, that's going to have an impact on your life. Sit and rest with that. And know that you are one with the infinite. You are one with the stars and the sky and the beauty and the joy and the life force called you. Let's just sit here in the quiet of our hearts.